Hello, and welcome to episode 39 of Moms with Yarn. I'm Sharon, known as Bronx Knitter 1 on Ravelry and Bronx Knitter on Instagram. If you notice, there's no Tracy today. We've been having some scheduling issues, but we wanted to get something out to let you know that we're still knitting and still making projects, and we're still here. We haven't gone on an unofficial hiatus where you disappear and just never come back. We're still here. So as soon as we can straighten out our scheduling issues, Tracy will be back. In the meantime, you get me alone. I have been knitting, and you'll pardon me if I sound a little bit rough. I've been having some seasonal issues, allergies, bronchitis, whatever. But the knitting goes on, and so does the show. Before I get started, I'd like to talk about the January MECAL. The winners have been announced, and that is Simona Maloney, who won a skein of Gales Art yarn, and Knitting Mary B, who won a pattern. Both people should get in touch with Tracy about getting their prizes if they haven't already, and congratulations. Also, Remembering Remy is in full swing. It started on February 23rd, and it will end on May 29th. You can knit or crochet caps for preemies or newborns, and there's an FO thread and there's a chatter thread. Please don't get the two mixed up. If you chatter in the FO thread, please delete your comment so we don't have to delete it later. The prizes have been posted by Tracy, and now the only thing left to do is to get knitting. Find yourself a pattern, an easy pattern for experienced knitters and crocheters. One preemie cap might take you 30 minutes, so think how many caps you can get out with one skein of yarn that you won't be using for anything in particular, that is soft and will go well on a newborn baby's head. So that's the administrati part of the show. So let's get to the knitting part of the show. I knit a couple of pairs of socks. Tracy had asked me if I could knit a pair of plain vanilla socks. I told her that I could, but I don't. But I did. And it was, easy enough. I was donated some yarn for my group by a person who wishes to remain anonymous. And in that bag of goodies was a couple of skeins that I absconded with for myself. One of them is this Madeline Tosh sock yarn. I understand that it's in a discontinued colorway, and there's nothing special about these socks other than that they're special because they're mine. I made them, and I'm going to wear them now that I've shown them on the podcast. It is a regular old plain vanilla sock. As you can see, I made a picot edge. Let me get it on It has a picot edge, stockinette, slip stitch, and gussets, and that's it. Plain vanilla for Tracy's benefit. I said I could, I did, and now I'm, just as happy with these as I could possibly be. They're a good sturdy pair of socks, and I'm going to wear them this weekend because who knows what the weather is going to be. It's not time to go sockless yet. So, Madeline Tosh sock, no colorway, and no tag. If I had one, I don't know where it is now. But there you go. A pair of plain vanillas. Perfect. The other thing I knit was I knit a pair of socks that are replacement socks. Now, normally I don't knit replacement socks. Once the sock dies, that's it. But it just so happens that I really, 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 really wanted to replace a pair of practically new Torrent socks by Tin Can Knits. It's a paid-for pattern on Ravelry. And I used my hand spun. This is Crown Mountain Fibers, 100% BFL. Excuse me. and it's my hand spun. Unfortunately, Crown Mountain is no longer in business. I understand that Klaus went back to Germany, I believe it was, and shut the shop down. So these are Torrent socks by Tin Can Knits. I used a size 1. I cast on 72 stitches. And these are unintentional stripes because I didn't have any idea that these socks would block, considering that was the first sock I knit. The second sock looks considerably different in that it blocked more than striped. I don't mind because I love these socks enough to want to knit them again, even with hand spun. And this is the design down the front, which is what made me want to knit these socks in the first place. It's a beautiful design, and the sock pattern, it's paid for, but you know, you need one that's versatile and stretchy. It has a stockinette heel, and this sock blocked as opposed to striped. Well, it's striped a little, but not much. I used a size 1 needle, 72 stitches, and they're stretchy, they're functional, they're pretty, they're mine. I've replaced my socks and I'm happy, and that's what matters. So that's number 2 on the what did you do while you were gone list. The next thing I knit was called, this is a pattern I purchased when I was in, I have no place to put my blockers. This was I picked this up at Vogue Knitting Live a couple of years ago. It's the Luna Veritas by the Yarniad. I just was struck by how pretty it is and how nice it laid, and I have all manner of sock yarn to make this with. It's a paid-for pattern on Ravelry, and I used a US size 6 needle to make it. And I wasn't overly thrilled with the results. First, I made it with I think it's Maple Farms yarn, 100% BFL. And I did use a size 6 needle. This is a sport weight. And you might remember this yarn from when it was kind of my mother's vodka lemonade. But when I showed it to her and she tried it on, she turned her lips up. So I took it apart and made other things with it. Now, the pattern got lost in the variegation, but it's still, everything is still very pretty. And the pattern is really easy to remember. Can't really see the design so much, but you know it's there when you knit it. So that's what happened with that. I loved it. It's warm, it's chunky, and it curls. I didn't think it was going to curl this much, but to be honest, I used a super stretchy bind off because I thought it was supposed to kind of hang, or if I turned it, it was supposed to do this and it was supposed to do that. I didn't quite weave in my ends, but it doesn't do any of those things but curl. And in fact, it kind of looks like a sombrero with all these colors. I find it funny, but the fact of the matter is that even though it's curled and this part would be under your coat presumably, so nobody would see it anyway, it's for this reason that I could not see myself gifting it to anyone. But it's pretty, it's warm, it works, and the pattern was easy, it was worth it. And I thought that maybe if I tried not using the super stretchy bind off, that maybe I would get a better result. So with the yarn I absconded with from the generous donor, I made it again in Jojo Land Melody. And these colors are so gorgeous, I couldn't resist. And it's the sock weight, and it's kind of what the pattern calls for. Not kind of, it is what the pattern calls for. So I went ahead and made it. And this one, it's Jojo Land Melody, and it has no colorway, it has numbers. And that works out because there's no tag anyway. If there was one, I lost it, because that's my MO. That's what I always do, lose my tags. So I figured I would make this in the sock weight and see what happens without the super stretchy bind off. And this one curls even worse. I don't know what other than stretching the bejesus out of it. But oh my gosh, I don't even care. I can't even make my eyes go down to the bottom of this cowl because the colors up top are so amazing. And it's not as warm as the BFL, but it's way more pretty. I like how each one of the design rows came out in a different color. Oh, it's so nice. And it's good for spring, and it's good for me, and maybe when I'm doing some yard work, maybe it'll be my hat. What do you think? I thought that, you know, since the edges were curling, who knows? A cowl with many uses. Either which way, it's beautiful. I will wear it as a cowl, not as a hat. And that's 2 attempts. I think they said that insanity is when you do something over and over and get the same result and expect something different and get the same result. So this is a fault with the yarn, I think. Oh no, that's a piece of lint. There you go. It's really a well worth it pattern. There's plenty of patterns just like it on Ravelry that have the same shape where you start off knitting flat and then you join and then you knit in the round. Easy, pretty quick to knit. And if you have beautiful yarn and beautiful colors, I imagine it works well with any kind of yarn. But I think that the pattern would be best complemented by using a solid or a semi-solid. Just my opinion. But did it twice. I can't see myself doing it again anytime in the near future because it's just not going to happen. I tried, and unless I can come up with some kind of idea about how to make the ends not curl, it won't happen again. So the next thing I knit was the Winter Long by Bristol Ivy. It's beautiful. It is so beautiful. I couldn't resist. When I saw this pattern, I like anything that kind of has a scalloped edge. I'm just a sucker for a scalloped edge. And I had some hand spun Masham that sat around for a while because it's not the softest, but the color is what sold me. It's like a sandy kind of, I don't know, sand. I guess sand would be the color I would call it. But this is the cowl. So pretty. So the pattern is a paid for pattern. I used a size 8 needle. You knit it flat and then you do a 3 needle bind off that kind of matches your seams or matches the vines mostly. And then you get this. The edge is not as scalloped as I thought it would be, but she's calling these buds or flowers. I don't care what she calls them. I call them pretty. I loved making it. The pattern, let me just say, the way you get these lines is with the purls. And if you don't follow the instructions to do the purls, you won't get these lines. I don't know what you'll get, but you won't get these lines. There's a special note in the pattern about it. Make sure you read the pattern. The pattern called for 7 repeats, and I only had enough Masham to do 6, which is quite all right because it's still extremely pretty. Now, I noticed that a lot of the people that I see on the train, young girls on the train, are wearing cowls this big on the outside of their coat. I don't know how I feel about wearing it on the outside of my coat. I like a cowl that can go on the inside of my coat because even leaving a button open lets the draft in, and I don't want that. So this one will probably go to my sister. She's not going to be real happy with me because this isn't the softest yarn, but if she wears it on the outside of her coat, presumably it won't be touching her neck. So it'll be okay to give to her. It's kind of too late to give it to her now for winter because winter here, I think, and I don't want to jinx myself, is officially over. Yesterday was 70 degrees and today is supposed to go up to 75 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really remember, but it's pretty warm. Warm enough to wear a light jacket. Too warm to wear anything like this. But I love it, and I would have kept it if it was a little bit softer and fit inside my coat. It doesn't. So, in the spirit of doing things twice, if at first you don't succeed, you know that saying. Even though this is a success, I'm not going to say I would do it again. I would do it 100 times because I really like it. Really wonderful. But because I wanted something smaller and something that would fit inside my coat, I decided to try some Michaels brand, what they're calling sock yarn, which really is lace yarn, which cannot even vaguely be used for socks because it's way too soft. And anyway, it's 100% merino, I believe. And just like with the original, I only had enough for 6 repeats because I used scrap yarn to make the leftover yarn to make this, not scrap. You can see the pattern. It's very well defined, even with the smaller. I did use a size 8 with the first one. I used a size 6 with this one. And again, with the, you knit it flat, 3 needle bind off. Match up your vines, mostly. And put it on. I can wear it just like this. You can't see it. It goes down kind of low, but I'm short, so that explains why that's happening. And just as pretty, but way more functional for me because my sister wouldn't get her mitts on this one for $1,000,000. Now, this is lace weight, and it's just enough to keep your neck warm. It's small enough to go inside your jacket, keep your neck warm that way. It can be worn just as, you know, just as a regular drop down scarf around your neck. And I saw some people on Ravelry who made it as a scarf and left it as a scarf because it sits so pretty. The pattern, I'm gonna say, is not for beginners because you really have to be able to recognize stitches and to be able to follow the instructions and to trust the pattern, because the stitch count in the parentheses doesn't necessarily match the stitches on your needle. I'm sure there's a reason for that, and I made it twice, and I knew at the time when I was doing it what the problem was, but I don't remember anymore because it's been a while. So this is it, and this is supposed to be green, but actually you can see it's gray. And it's gorgeous, and I think, now I don't want you to hold me to this, but I think I'm gonna make some more of these. I think some people in my family would like to have this, and I think it's nice when we all have the same thing. It's a pretty fast knit once you get the swing of it. It's a 64 row repeat, so make sure you have enough yarn to finish your project, depending on what size you ultimately want it to be. So really nice. This one I'm keeping. I can put it in my closet, in with my winter stuff now that winter is just about over here in the United States. And in case you didn't know, our clocks move forward this Sunday. We're going to lose an hour of sleep, but we're going to gain an hour of sunshine. That's important. So in the beginning of summer, whenever the time changes, you'll notice that it'll be dark when you leave your house for work in the morning, but it'll be light for an hour or so after you get home from work. Thank goodness. Oh, yeah. So last thing is a work in progress. I'm using my Clementine Originals Halloween bag. She has a shop on Etsy. Halloween bag, because inside that bag I can carry my Yarn-It. The Yarn-It keeps the ball from rolling around on the cloth inside the bag so that my yarn doesn't get fuzzy. This is Storybook Yarns in the Lumpy Princess colorway. What's a lumpy princess? I could be a lumpy princess. I have lumps. I am making a pair of, you said it, plain vanilla socks. Now, I know you can see these colors like I can, and I am so totally in love. I don't even know which way to go with that. So if you'll, I did a plain vanilla from top down. I did 64 stitches. I did an afterthought heel, which explains this flatness that's going on here. And these are mighty small, so you'll know they're not for me. One of the ladies in in my knitting group is having kind of a rough time, so I'm gonna give these socks to her. So this is sock number 1. Like I said, I'm loving these colors. Ugh, they're so gorgeous. And this is sock number 2. I put in the waste yarn for the afterthought heel. And I'm almost finished. You know what was remarkable was that I knit this whole sock. And then I put in the afterthought heel. And the only yarn management I did was to make sure there was a black strip in between the colors. I knit the heel. I picked up the yarn. I started knitting again. No color management, no yarn management. And what? I got twins. I think that means that the person who dyed this yarn and measured it however she did that was a genius. A genius. This yarn is, if I would have brought my project notebook down with me, I would know exactly how many stitches I cast on. I believe it was 72. I used a US size 1. I put in the thread for the afterthought heel, and based on what I'm seeing in the first sock, the second sock is almost done. I'm already up to the red part here, so I can start my decreases now. And then I'll go back and I'll put my heel in. And unfortunately, she'll probably have these socks before I can bring them back. I'll see how long I can hold out, but the important thing is that she feel better, not that I keep the socks for the podcast. So that is what is going on with that. The last thing I was meaning to talk about in the very beginning is, in case you don't know where to find a basic beanie cap, here's an idea. It is from Mama Stitchery Projects. It's the Basic Baby Hat by Heather Tucker. I found it on Ravelry. It's free and it is basic. It comes in preemie, newborn, toddler, teen, 12 months, everybody. The deal about the hat is it's a knit hat and you can embellish it how you want. And like I said, it's on Ravelry, it's free, and a quick knit. So you might want to give that a try if you're participating in Remembering Remy. You can make it use scrap yarn. All you got to do is make sure that the yarn is soft enough not to damage any baby heads. So that is today's podcast. That's a lot, but really, when it's just me, it's so much more fun when Tracy's here. But for the time being, until we straighten that out, and until I see you again in 2 weeks, hopefully Tracy will be with me then. I'll happy knitting and I'll see you then.